Hello everyone and welcome to another bloggy, geeky sort of episode on MK1 Focuses. This time I'm focusing on a subject that I've actually never covered before because it is quite a geeky, boring one, and that is emissions. Yeah, quite a boring subject, but it's something of a problem in the UK. Now, this is just for the UK. But if you're abroad, you might be interested in how much we might pay in tax, vehicle excise duty, as what it's known as, because this money is not ring fenced for the roads. The roads in the UK are literally crumbling, and the government need as much money as possible so that they can make their friends richer and us poorer. There are some serious tax changes taking place very soon this April. April the 1st, new tax year. The tax always goes up a little bit by inflation. This year it seems to have gone up a little bit more, and unfortunately the cost of living is really hitting in the UK, and it is going to hit motorists, and it's hitting people unfortunately in the car community, and that is the extortionate rate at which vehicle excise duty for older cars is pretty much going up, whether that's pre-2001 or post. There is a cut-off. So in the UK, for those who are not aware, we have a few different taxing systems for cars. The first one is the most simple. When a car reaches 40 years old, you are then able, as the owner of that 40-year-old car, and at the moment that is 1984, cars in 1984 as we go through the year, you'll be able to change the tax status of your car from a private car to historic vehicle. And that will allow you to basically exempt your car from MOT and tax. Fantastic. Ruby's got another 5 years to go yet. So Ruby, like a lot of cars between 1984 that are currently not eligible to change their tax status, and March the 1st, 2001, these vehicles, it is shrinking quite a bit. I don't know what happens when we get to the 1st of March 2001. Well, that'll be 2051 before cars become 40 years old at that stage, but things would have probably changed by then. But for that section of cars, which is a good 17 years now, the tax is based on the engine size. And that is two sections. Cars that are over 1.549cc liters, 15549, something like that, and under 1.5. And those are the two systems. And it's based on a 12-month or 6-month basis, so you can tax it for 6 months or 12 months, whichever way. Ruby, thankfully, is a 1.4 CVH. Pretty much one of the highest capacities you can get without paying the higher tax bracket. So I'm quite fortunate with that car. If it was a 1.6 CVH for a start that you would have got in an S or the XR, you would be paying quite a bit more, around £140 more. That's the difference, and I'll explain that in a second. For cars after the 1st of March 2001, it's based on emissions, and that goes all the way to March the 31st, 2017. After 2017, they again changed the tax tables because we were getting hybrids and electric vehicles were starting to come into the planning and thought of the government. So things have changed again. I'm not as familiar with the 2017 onwards tax tables because a lot of that is actually based on, well, there's an initial tax on cars that are worth more than £40,000. Let's say it's based, that first year of tax is based on how much your car is worth in the market value brand new. That's it. Even if you're leasing, it's worth what it is brand new. So the more expensive the car you're leasing or buying, the more tax you're going to pay initially on that first year. Pre-2017, that this 2001 to 2017, again 16 years, The Focus Mark 1 is predominantly caught between the two of them. The 2001 to 217, you have different bands based on the amount of CO2 emissions grams per kilometre that your car emits. So i.e. generally, the bigger the engine, generally more petrol, the worse it is, the more expensive it is, unfortunately. And unfortunately, my both Rover 45 and Focus Mark 1 are on the heavy side of things, unfortunately. We are quite well down the bands. Let me explain a little bit more where Mark 1 stand. Now, some of you understand this. Most cars between 2010 and 2017 probably are not beyond a bandy, unless they're a really big car or heavier diesel, etc. But older cars like a Focus Mark 1, who, as I say, they're caught between the two bands. The tax before, the previous tax, pre-March the 1st, 2001, based on engine size, and then after that date, emissions bands. Now with Focus Mark 1s, most of them are on the expensive side now. It is a really difficult thing to keep them on the roads because there's a lot of expenses with Mark 1s. You know, vehicle tax is really nothing because the cost of vehicle tax increasing every year has been somewhat around £10–15. And that's what it probably is in this case. But also that £10–15, I wouldn't really argue if the car is reliable, which most are quite still. Because the costs of owning, let's say, a far cheaper car on the tax, maybe a newer car, might get taken away if that car has some problems. And all it would need really is a problem where you have to take the car to a garage to have a diagnosis. And usually a diagnosis will cost you £50–60. That's wiped out the tax. So it always pays to have a more reliable car and not worry about the tax so much. But let's just have a little eye on what your Mark 1 Focus will cost to tax now in this current tax year and what it's going to cost after April the 1st. Now, for the benefit of eyesight, all this information I have in front of me is based on the emissions, particularly the post-2001 cars. They are based on emissions. A lot of this is in your brochures. If you've got a Mark 1 brochure, have a look. All the emission stats are all there. But what you've got to do is what I've done is I've linked the emissions CO2 readings with the correct banding so I can give you an accurate price. Well, most of you are aware of how much it costs. Now, these prices are based on you paying all in one go. I don't do that. I have not paid my car tax all in one go for quite a few years because of the severe cost of paying up front. And also, I generally don't keep my cars on the road for the whole 12 months of the year. Only the Rover 45, which is my main car, may benefit from that. Maybe the odd month where I decide to go without actually taxing that. It might be in the summer. It might be an opportunity to give the Rover a bit of a break. You never know. These things might pan out a little bit differently, but I'm certainly trying to fight the system by making sure that one of my 3 cars is functional and usable and the other 2 are dormant and therefore maybe not paying tax. I don't know. It's how it works with multiple car ownership. But for most of you who've already got probably 1 car or 2 cars, then it's a bit more of an easier balancing act. But anyway, 1.4 manual will start at the bottom. Petrol cars, 1.4 manual. The 1.4 Sigma that you really only got on a CL. So with a 1.4 manual, you couldn't get them as an automatic anyway, you can expect to get around 158 to 162 grams of CO2, grams per kilometre CO2, which puts it in band G if it's after the 1st of March 2001. But if you've got a 1.4 manual before the 1st of March 2001, based on your engine size, you are currently paying £200. In April, you'll be paying £210. £10 increase. That's it. After the 1st of March, if you've got one after the 1st of March, Band G would set you £240 a year at the moment. April, it'll be 255. Yeah. So basically with 1.4, you're better off with a pre-2001 manual. This is good buying advice, this is, but as I say, it's theory. So those of you who have got a 1.4 before that particular date of March the 1st, 2001, you are benefiting a lot by being in the old tax system. The next one is the 1.6 manual. Now this represents probably 75% of Mark 1s that are remaining. It was the most popular combination of drivetrain, so most of you are going to be interested in what I say here. If it was based on your engine size before the 1st of March 2001, it would be £320 for the year. That is a significant increase on what they used to be honest. It will be £345 from next April. So quite a bit. If you have a 1.6 manual based on your emissions after that particular date, I'll call it the special date. 1st of March 2001 is the special date. You'd be paying £240. Wow. After April, you'll be paying 255. That means that if you have a 1.6 manual after the special date based on your taxed on your emissions, you're actually better off than the earlier 1.6 manual owners before that date taxed on their engine size. How interesting. Next one on the list, my car. 1.6 automatic. Brace yourselves if you've got one of these cars. Okay, so again, it will be based on the engine size. Now, I will say from now, apart from the 1.4, every single engine is obviously above a 1.5 capacity. So every single engine that I'm going to say from now on will be the same price. It will be £320 currently, and £345 you'll be paying from April if you have a car before the special date, including the 1.6 automatic. After the 1st of March 2001, based on emissions, my poor car, 192 grams per kilometre, band G, or no, band J I should say, £365 I've been paying this year, and I will be paying £385 from April. So again, in that case, owners of a 1.6 automatic before the special date will be benefiting a little bit more, £40 more, £40 less I should say, than people like me. So the next one, 1.8 manual. So again, before the special date, £320, it'd be £345 after April. After the special date, based on emissions, £320 currently. It's jumped to £335 after April. So actually, very weirdly, if you've got a 1.8 manual before the special date, you're actually paying more, £10 more. So you'd be better off with a 1.8 manual after the special date. Weird. 2 litre manual. Now the 2 litre manual, this is where we're getting a bit high up on the bands here a little bit. And 2 litre manuals and automatics in particular, not that common. They're quite rare. So a 2 litre manual, you will obviously, 345 will be the price from April. And if you want it after the special date, if you've got one after the special date, emissions, it can be from 205 to 209 grams per kilometre. By the way, the reason that I'm actually not giving a single figure is because that actual grams per kilometre can actually alter depending on the wheel size of your Focus. If you've got smaller wheels, less CO2. If you've got bigger radius wheels like a 17-inch or 16-inch, if you've got a 16-inch Z-Tech alloys on yours, then you'd be having a couple more grams than one with 15-inch. So actually, my car is actually emitting technically more CO2 than it did when it came out the factory because of the wheels being 16-inch instead of 15. But that puts a 2-litre manual in band K. After the special date, you're going to be paying £415, which is a £20 jump from this current year, I should say. £415. So I'm afraid you'd be better off with an earlier 2-litre manual. And I'm afraid it is exactly the same for the 2-litre automatic, which is 222 grams per kilometre, and the 2-litre Duratec ST as found in the ST170, which has 218 grams per kilometre. So very much all very close, and they're all in band K, and every single one of them will be £415 on April. So I'd rather have an ST170 on that basis than a 2-litre manual automatic. And that really concludes. Oh, sorry, I'm forgetting the diesels. No, I haven't forgotten them, trust me. So I'm going to start off with the TDI, the 1.8 TDI. Obviously, in terms of if it's a pre-special date car, it will be £345 from April. So hold that figure in your head. After the 1st of March 2001, because the diesels obviously were much cleaner, 145 to 150 grams per kilometre. So cleaner than the cleanest petrol. Not by much, but cleaner. The cleanest petrol is a 1.4 manual with 158 grams per kilometre. That's it. So that will put the TDDI in band F, which means after the special date, it will cost you £210. Okay, so that means effectively you're going to be saving an absolute fortune on a diesel after that date. If you've got a diesel before the 1st of March 2001, you are effectively paying the biggest difference between the two bands for any car. £135 more that you're going to be paying because it's based on the engine size. It's absolutely crazy how this works. But let's go to the TDCI. Now the TDCI can range from 140 grams per kilometre to 150. Now that is with most specifications and most tyre sizes. If it's a saloon, or if it's an estate, it's a heavier car. So therefore there'll be a couple more grams per kilometres. If it's got a bigger wheel size, as I've said, again, slightly more. But it won't be enough to push it into another tax bracket, except for one particular car that I'm going to mention in a second. Again, it'll be in band F, so it'll be exactly the same cost as a TDDI. So both diesels, £210 you're going to be paying if it's based on emissions. If it's before, I'm so sorry, it's £345. Honestly, that is going to have, I think, potentially some effect on a lot of cars that are owned by people who may be not particularly interested in them, but would otherwise maybe sell it on. Or maybe now they'll decide, well, I've got many problems with this diesel, I'm going to scrap it. I've got a feeling that's why a lot of earlier diesels may not exist in the future. There is one car that I've missed out completely, and according to my brochure, and I've backed this up with information off the internet from various different places, so my sources are concrete because it's consistent. The cleanest Mark 1 Focus on paper is a 1.8 TDDI with a 4-door saloon with 15-inch wheels. That will produce 130 grams per kilometre, which is practically one less than the TDCi. Very strange indeed. And 5 less than the estate TDDI. I'm not sure why. That drop of 1 from 139 to 140 puts it in band E. That is a bit cheaper. In fact, it's the cheapest Mark 1 Focus you can tax. And currently, that will be £190 from April. It's currently 180. 190. So the cheapest Mark 1 Focus that you can tax in the UK today is after the 1st of March 2001, based on its emissions, £190 of the year if you have a 1.8 TDDI with as a 4-door saloon with its original 15-inch alloys. What a combination. If anybody's got one, you are paying significantly less than everybody else. Although I will say the TDDI and TDCi are only £20 more, particularly on the emissions. So there you are, guys. It's just an absolute flim-flam of a mess. The most expensive car, well, the most expensive cars, not unpredictable, 2-litre manual, 2-litre automatic, 2-litre Duratec ST170. You are going to be paying £415 if your car was registered after the 1st of March 2001. Unfortunately for ST170 owners, that means you're guaranteed to pay that because it was only manufactured after that date. So yeah, unfortunately I'm paying at the higher end, and most people are generically paying quite a lot of money. And I think this has been quite an interesting little graph. I'm going to keep an eye on this. I'm going to put this into a really nice spreadsheet graph so I can keep an eye on how much the tax is and everything. But I thought this is something I've never looked into. And it's really weird how certain models benefit from being an earlier car than a later car, especially with the tax. I don't know how that's happened, but it's happened. So it's almost like a lottery, whatever car you own, depending on the engine and whether it was pre or post March 2001, it's an absolute lottery. It's fascinating at the same time. So we've discovered that the cleanest Mark 1 Focus is a 1.8 TDDI 4-door with 15-inch Z-Tech, possibly Z-Tech wheels. It would be the 15-inch alloys. So probably the LX alloys potentially. In the lowest bracket of E. Sadly, Mark 1 Focuses in the UK used to be a lot cheaper to tax. I remember the days where a 1.6 manual, which is the most common model on this sheet, well, you would have been paying about £150 after 2001, and now you're paying over 100 more, 255 from April. In the space of probably 4 years. I can remember about 4 or 5 years ago where it was significantly less, and it's just ridiculous now. I'm afraid the government have got this high agenda that actually people aren't taking up electric cars and aren't moving forwards like they'd want. So what they've decided is stuff the public. We're going to charge them an absolute fortune for their old gas guzzlers because they ain't got enough money to upgrade. They haven't got the finances. So we'll catch them in a trap. And unfortunately, it's a trap many people who have no interest in cars sadly find themselves in. Luckily for us, we have a hobby and it's called cars, and we have a very, very good hobby called a Focus Mark 1. And when you enjoy your car, what I've just mentioned in this episode makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. Because I bet you nobody's going to watch this video and think, goodness me, I need to get rid of my 1.6 automatic after 2001 and swap it for an earlier one. No one's going to do that because you own the most reliable, one of the most reliable cars, probably the most reliable car for its age. So therefore, the reliability of a Mark 1, despite the fact that they need work, they need maintenance, they need investment, they will be reliable when you need them to be. And that, for me, kills any high tax out the window. It doesn't matter if the tax is £60, £70 more on 1 year than the next, because that £60, £70 you'll get back in reliability. And that is why it just makes utter sense, and why upgrading makes absolutely no sense, particularly for people who maybe are looking at moving a Mark 1 on and looking at something newer. Absolutely pointless. Take care, guys. See you very soon.